Hi, my name is Jacqueline.lorin, and I am part of the strategic consulting team at Valiantys, which is an Atlassian solution partner. I wanted to give you some tips today on change management and how you can use change management as a part of your projects. So we're going to talk about what change management is, factors to consider, and then we're going to run through an example. So change management is basically when we think about the changes that people will experience in our organization, in our community, wherever we're performing this project. In my world, I always look at it with a lens through IT projects, but really this is true for any large-scale projects or any impactful projects that you will be working on. So we're going to think about the people that are experiencing the change from the project that we're working on. So how and when to use in projects? Again, a lot of this is going to depend on your starting point. I will talk a lot about from an IT perspective, but if your experience is different, please feel free to reach out to me and we can talk through what this might look like in your world. The questions I often ask myself are, is this project you're implementing going to affect several people? Again, these are general guidelines. It's a great place to start, but also if you are doing something that is going to deeply affect maybe a handful, you still need to think about change management. Another question I often ask myself, is this new project going to change people's roles, behaviors, how they interact with their environment? We want to make sure that people are able to continue doing their jobs, their commutes, their whatever they're doing, their work in some way, their hobbies, and not be overly affected. And the other question I ask, is this new state moderately different than the old state? Meaning, are people going to have a hard time with this new world that you're giving them, the new application, the new route, the new features on the application, whatever the case may be? So here's some factors to consider. Information sharing. How are people going to hear about this change? If we're talking about a work setting, you want to start with people's leadership. People trust their leadership. They will listen to their leadership. It's a good opportunity for the leadership to tell people this change is coming and why it's coming. Training. Do we need to train people how to do their jobs or how to use a tool that they have been using for a very long time? Let's gather feedback. So we need to give people an opportunity to tell us why we have potentially missed something, or why this won't work for them, or just let them voice their concerns, talk those through with you. You're going to get a much higher adoption rate if you allow people to have some sort of feedback mechanism. And then finally, and probably most importantly, go live strategy and support. When we go live with this change, with this new application, whatever the case may be, we need to make sure that we are there with questions, problems, concerns, because that's a very critical time when people are trying to log in and pay a bill or do their job and they can't and they don't know where to turn. You can really lose a lot of users at that moment. All right, so let's run through an example. This is something that's a pretty popular project from where I work. In this example, we have a service desk will be our main target area of the people that we're affecting. And let's say this service desk has 15 teams. We're replacing ServiceNow and we're putting in Jira Service Management. So ServiceNow and Jira Service Management are both tools where service desk employees will organize their work and people will open tickets in the wider business at large, or maybe the public. So we've talked about the scenario of what we're doing. Let's say that this change will directly affect 15 teams, 8 executives, 15 managers or team lead roles, and then all the end users in the company who might potentially open a ticket or check status on a ticket, and let's say that's about 5,000. So this team will be changed by the tools that they're going to use to access their backlog, to see work, to see priorities for them. It's going to change the way that managers and team leads will assign and track work on their teams. And then end users are going to request tickets in a different way and track them. And then, of course, reporting will change. And of course, we're not covering all the aspects of this project, but for the sake of time, we're just hitting some of the high points here. So here are my suggestions. At least 3 months out, ideally more, but sometimes you don't even know about this project until 3 months out. So we work with what we have, but at least 3 months out, we want to start general messaging. And again, like I said a couple of slides ago, we want to start with leadership. People trust their leaders. People want to hear from their leaders. They want to hear why they have to change. Nobody's really wild about change. So if they know that they have to do it for this reason, they're more likely to jump on board and work with whatever change you're proposing. We want to make sure that we message in different formats. I may only look in Slack. My team member might only look in Outlook. So we want to make sure that we're hitting as many different messaging formats as possible. Let people know why and the specifics of the effect. We're moving from ServiceNow to Jira Service Management. It's going to save us money. It's going to be easier to use, but the effect is you are going to have to check your tickets, organize your work in a different system. Then you want to think about team-specific impacts. Each team is going to have a different impact based on what roles they have on that team. So let's think of the service desk teams here and think about those leads and managers. They want to start to communicate those specific impacts to their employees. And this is true for any team that is going to see a larger scale of impacts. Honestly, ideally, it would be true for all the leaders to share with their employees, you're going to have to open tickets in a different way. Just a heads up, look for this change coming down the pike. And then we want to talk about role-specific training. This, of course, is very important for those people who are going to have their day-to-day changed on them, but also we want to target end users who will just be opening tickets maybe once a year or checking status for them, because it is still very frustrating for people when they go to do something that they used to know how to do and now it's maybe in a different place or they open a ticket in a different way. One more point I want to hit there is let the length and frequency of your role-specific training be determined by the level of impact. We would probably want to put the people on the service desk team through at least a half-day training of this is how you used to do this thing, this is how you will do this thing. But for the people, the end users, we want to probably do an hour-long training at most and allow them to ask questions, but it'll be a pretty quick run through of here's a couple of examples. All right, let's move to at least 1 month out. We're going to continue with that general messaging with more frequency now. We really want to make sure that people are paying attention. And I cannot remember the exact source, but one of my change management people that I have worked with over the years told me that people need to hear something 7 times before they really hear it. I know in my case that is definitely true. I think in a lot of people's cases, maybe you don't even recognize it, but we're just all so busy that we filter out a lot of the extra noise. So you have to hear things in many different ways, many different times before it sinks in that something is going to change in your world. So keep that general messaging going in the different formats. Team-specific impacts. Ensure the managers and the team leads are listening to their people at this point, that everybody is getting that training scheduled, that they are aware of resources out there like videos or documentation, and they're listening to any concerns and giving feedback to the group that's orchestrating the project. And then the role-specific training, we talked about this a little bit, but we really want to make sure that everyone has the training they need, the training is clear, and if we need to go deeper with the training, that we are. All right, and then finally, go live week. So general messaging, we want to post on an internal site or the application itself, maybe the old application and new application, banners that say, this is changing, this is how it's changing, go here for support, the time, the date, next steps for people, are you stuck, here are your resources to help you. Role specific. So let's talk about that service desk team. We want to have a hotline of sorts set up with them. So if they have questions, concerns, they're stuck, we make sure that we have people ready to answer any questions they have, so they feel very confident that any moment they are not able to do their job, someone is there to help them out and direct them. And then finally, general support. So terrible name, but we still call them war room situations where we might get 15 people, 20 people who are able to answer tickets immediately or be reached out to for questions. In our world now, this might be a virtual room, might be a physical room, just kind of depends on what your setup is like. And in addition to that, we often have office hours. So we have those people ready to jump on any problems that they see, but also we may hold a Zoom call, or again, depending on what your process looks like, your setup looks like, maybe even in person where people can drop in some way and ask questions. Usually this is a tiered down sort of schedule, meaning the first day you might have office hours for a couple of hours, the second day you might have it for a half hour, the third day you may or may not have them depending on user feedback, the next week you may hold 2. It really depends on how big the change was and what the user experience is like afterwards. And that's it. Hopefully you have found these tips helpful. Again, I'm part of Valiantys. We're a #1 Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner globally. And I am happy to answer any questions you have, how this might apply to your world. Please feel free to reach out. Always happy to talk offline.